When we started to do the research, we knew that gin was our preferred drink as consumers, and we realised that with gin we could use local botanicals and we could create a spirit that captured the flavours of our area, but also the stories and the myths and legends from the area. So we believe that gin was a great product for us because it was something we could showcase our area and kind of our talents.
Martin, it's so lovely to meet you here on Zoom and to be able to talk to you about your distillery.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm delighted to talk about our distillery, and yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, it's I've been talking to different people, and I've just realized how connected everybody is, and also how we find different forms of art. That we see art as maybe painting, music, dancing, and so on, but that something like what you are doing and is also a way. It's not just a science, but it's also an art.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of care and attention that goes into products at our scale, and that's the same as other art forms. There's a care, attention, and the real passion to make something beautiful.
Yeah, and also there's so much involved in it as well, and it's also taste, isn't it? You have to explore different tastes and so on. So that's the senses that you really work with.
Yeah, that's right. And there's other things as well where our business in the past has collaborated with local artists to create labels to match the expressions. So that means that you can do it two ways. You can create the expression and then work with an artist to get a label to match the expression, or you can give the artist a bit more free rein, and then we try to tie in an addition to that label. So, for example, we had some lovely coastal watercolors, and we used that then to create a slightly salted gin. So there's that interaction, and then the other thing is we have a small tour space here, and in the off season we convert that into an exhibition space. So our first exhibition was inspired by gin. So we had paintings, we had other things that were created from gin botanicals, we had lots of different interpretations of that remit. And this year we are using our grass vodka, which is infused using a local grass that was first found growing in this area, to create an exhibition around that grass, around the botanist who found the grass. So it really opens lots of opportunities for artists to work with us and not be just restricted to one thing. And we love that. We think it's great fun. It's a really nice, close relationship to have.
Yeah, and it sounds very creative, because if you now said you're using the grass, do you also, since you've started the distillery, do you have this creative ideas where you think, okay, what's the next product going to be? How are we going to make it a story that it fits with our distillery?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it can come from different angles. So it could be that our tour manager finds a local story about a herb or a local myth, and then we try to think, okay, how can we interpret that myth into a product? Or it could come the other way. We could be out a walk along the cliffs or in the forest and see something that inspires us to create a product. And then the third way is we have a gardener here who is always trying to grow different things, and each season we may get a different botanical or a different fruit that we can use. So to give you an example, we've been trying to grow grapes in the north of Scotland, which is a bit of a challenge. But our gardeners managed that in our geodome. And last year we got a really good harvest of grapes, and we're going to try and use those grapes to create a product. So the inspiration for products come from being out and about, from different people, or from myths, legends, or even from literature.
But now, exactly where are you based? I mean, where, if you can describe it in the geography.
So we are on the most northerly tip of Scotland. So we're very remote in a small county called Caithness, and we're in a village called Dunnet. Dunnet's a really small village, maybe 300 people. It's where we
Wow.
live. Yeah, it's where we live. It's where my wife was born and brought up, and it's a really stunning area. From the distillery here, you can walk to the beach, you can walk to the forest, and you can do coastal trails along the cliffs. So I love it. It's absolutely like idyllic for us. It's a really nice outdoors life, but it is challenging. We do get kind of strong winds over winter. We do get colder temperatures, but then also we are kind of cut off from the cities where our nearest airport is really 115 miles away. If we wanted to go to one of the more international airports, we're about sort of 200, 250 miles away. So we are quite isolated, but that has its charms as well. We quite like that too.
Yeah. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up 8 miles west of Dunnet in a town called Thurso. So it's a town that is probably larger than it really should be. It was inflated with population because of the nuclear test facility that was built here I think it was in the 60s. My granddad moved up here to work as a mechanical engineer at that site, and that's what still is the main industry up here. We have the old nuclear test facility is being decommissioned, so still employs a number of people and makes the two towns, Thurso and Wick, around about 9,000. So I grew up there, but I moved away at 17 to gain work experience. Did a year's placement and then went to university for 5 years. And then after that, I worked mainly in Aberdeen in Scotland and then a year in the south of France. So moved about a bit, but always wanted to come home. And the gin distillery allowed us to come home because our fragile area here at the moment, young people move away, they don't stay. There's not that many opportunities, apprenticeships and jobs, or there's a handful of them each year. And the reality is that most young people move away. And within my family, I have two brothers and two sisters. They've moved away to London, to Aberdeen, to Inverness. And it means it's hard. So for us to be able to have a longer term plan to stay here, we had to really create jobs for ourselves. So building the distillery allowed us to do that. And the reality was when we set up the business in 2014, our goal was to create two jobs, one for me and one for my wife, Claire, and that would pay the bills and allow us to bring up our young family here in our home village.
But that's amazing that you thought of that and that you wanted to stay there, because this is the area that you know and where you grew up.
Yeah, loved it.
But what was the interest in distilling then for you? Did you go and study that?
I studied chemical engineering, and in third year I got the chance to specialise. So that was back in the early 2000s. And at that time, there was no jobs in brewing or distilling, really. There was no craft brewing in the UK, no craft distilling. So I had a student loan and I decided to go into energy then because there was a lot of jobs, the industry was booming, and I knew that it could pay off my student loan. So I didn't get to do my brewing and distilling degree, but I rejoined that and did it distance learning later, and started to home brew at home, started to make beers at home, started to play with other things like elderflower champagne, these kind of things, and learn how to make products. And then I thought, I would like to try and do this on a bigger scale. I believed I had the skills as an engineer and could operate a small still. So we took the gamble, or took the plunge, and went for it in 2014. And it was terrifying, to be honest, because we kind of invested all of our savings and kind of went with it. And it was frightening. We didn't have any experience in the industry. We didn't have any contacts. We didn't have any investment or any money from loans or things like that. So we had to make it work. And I remember for the first 2 or 3 months, we were constantly watching bank balance, watching money going in, money going out. And it was a real real stress, but it was good. It was an exciting time as well. It's stressful but very exciting too.
Yeah, I can imagine. And it's not that you live in a big city where you think, okay, well, we've got there will be people popping in and out. So you really had to do your marketing also.
Yeah, and that's where we were fortunate. Claire was strong in that part of the business, so we have very complementary skills. My love is engineering, and I love kind of the equipment side and making things.
Yeah.
And Claire was more design and marketing. So she did a great job in those early months. She started to tell people about the brand 9 months before it was even on the market. And it built up a momentum and it built up an interest in our product. And when we launched, we sold out our first batch in 40
Wow.
hours. And then the next batch went in 24 hours. So really incredible, to think that a small village could start shipping to all over the UK overnight, and that was we were really lucky with that.
But now starting from, so you basically started from scratch. So you had to buy the equipment and you had to also decide beforehand what you're going to do. So what was your first, was it a gin that you made?
Yeah, the business was always going to be gin, and vodka was never in our business plan, if I'm honest. When we started to do the research, we knew that gin was our preferred drink as consumers, and we realised that with gin we could use local botanicals and we could create a spirit that captured the flavours of our area, but also the stories and the myths and legends from the area. So we believe that gin was a great product for us because it was something we could showcase our area and kind of our talents. So we started with the gin. We worked with a local herbalist, a chap called Brian Lamb, and he would take me out on walks and we'd pick herbs. I would come back, I would distill them and taste them, and then try to learn about their sort of their history or their background in Scotland. And I also worked with a local ranger, Mary Legg, who could tell me about the sustainability. So if we liked berries, how could we forage them sustainable so that they were sustainable, so we didn't have a negative impact on biodiversity. So we did that, went out, picked, distilled, tasted, learned over a period of a year, learned about local botanicals, and then learned about gins and started to deconstruct other people's gin. So take their gin and try and work out how it was made. And that built us up a real knowledge on gin, on how it was made and how we could start building ours from the ground up. So we started to experiment with juniper, then layer that with kind of earthy notes, then citrus, then spice, then berries, and mint and our other tones. And that was, such a steep learning curve, but so fascinating to be out walks, picking things, learning about the ingredients, and then finding out about stories that you didn't know existed in your local area. So, when you're at school, you tend to find out about the history of Scotland, but not really that detail of, there was a botanist in the early 1800s here who discovered everything that was growing in Caithness and knew where to pick things. You didn't hear about those stories. So for me, it was brilliant. I got to learn more about our local area than I'd kind of learned in the previous 30 years.
And it's amazing that you say that, and that now people who also drink the gin or buy the gin will also now be aware of that and also be aware of the area that you live.
Yeah, and that was important to us because we love this area and we want to tell people about that area. And we've been fortunate where after we started up, there was an initiative to create a driving route called the North Coast 500 to promote the area. And by luck, we built our distillery right on the North Coast 500.
Wow.
And we went from tourists of, I think we went from 3,000 a year to now we're over 30,000 a year. So we got a bit of luck along the way, but it's great. It means that people now can come to our site, they can do a tour with us, a tasting, and they can learn directly from our team about local stories, local botanicals, and also see things growing in our garden, which is great.
Yeah. But now, this is also something that I spoke to another distiller in South Africa a while ago, and he was also saying that it has only been recently now that all these very much independent distilleries are popping up. Is there a great competition now in the market for you?
It depends on how you look at it. For me, if you look at like the big guys, the big gin distilleries, we are so insignificant to their sales. It's incredible. So I very much see it as two sides, where you've got the bigger guys who are completely different from the craft guys. So I prefer to see us as a group, as a cooperative almost, where we're all trying to promote each other's products and promote an industry, and hopefully take sales away from the big guys so that we can do that. So when we started, we were the third craft gin distillery in Scotland, and now there must be, I hate to quote the figure because I know it would be wrong already, but there will be over 50. You know, in our local area, we now have 3 gin distilleries. Before there was none. In Orkney, the islands across from us, there's 3, and before there was none. So it's had a real big impact. But what is brilliant is that these have created jobs in very kind of local areas, small villages, small towns, and they've also created products that didn't exist before. So you've got new styles of gin, new flavours, new botanicals, things that weren't used before in your traditional gins. I think it's brilliant, and I very much, I still see that mindset where I would rather like work together with the small distilleries and promote each other and see us as a group rather than trying to think of them actually as competition.
Yeah, and also for the consumer, it's also a different awareness now, because I think this makes it interesting to now go and explore these different distilleries and the different gins that you can get. Because I think just if you think of the wine industry, how people go to wineries, and there's this thing about it, to discover these different wines and know about the wineries. And I think this will be happening with the distilleries as well, if it's not happening already.
I think it is. I think you're absolutely right. Look, people are now learning of the impact of the distillery's location, the distillery's climate, and also what grows local, specifically to that distillery. And you never got that before with the big commercial gins. They told you the botanicals, but that was it. They didn't tell you why they used those botanicals, were they local to the distillery, and what impact climate had on those botanicals. So I think you're right. It's mirroring what happens with wine, and people come for that. They will come now and do like a gin distillery tour. So they'll try on the west coast, a gin on the north coast, a gin from the islands, and try to understand why they're different and really get a really nice close experience with the distillers, where they hear it from the distillery direct. And it's a great experience to be speaking to the producers direct and visiting their sites.
So how much experimenting do you still do? Because you must have experimented a lot when you started out.
Yeah, we were, I think we were over 55 different gins we made and over 80 different botanicals, and
really,
it never stops. So we have now a gardener that works with us, and she does our research distilling. We have a graduate distiller and our master distiller who helps us out, and we're always looking for new ideas. So this year, our graduate distiller looked at our flavour profile and tried to identify somewhere that we didn't have a flavour profile. So started to experiment with some of the citrus ingredients from our garden, so things like tangerine sage and lemon verbena, but then also look at something a little bit different. So we used a smoked tea. So this year we were able to make a smoked citrus gin using tea and some of these citrus profiles from our garden, along with things like organic orange peel that we peeled here at the distillery. So we're still constantly experimenting. We play with aging the gin, we play with aging the vodka, we're trying to learn about different woods, different impacts on duration and maturation, and then again looking at different botanicals that are in our gardens that we can make really small batches, so 100, 200 bottles from something that's grown in the garden. So yeah, constant experiment. And to be honest, that's the fun. If we continue to make the same product on a routine basis, it's great, and it provides us with revenue that we need for business. But in terms of motivation or excitement, I think the new experiments are always the bit that we all look forward to, especially the staff, because we get to taste some fun stuff.
Yeah, it's but you're also talking about your garden, so you grow all the botanicals yourself, or
No,
the
the kind of two constraints. Our climate here, we can't get all the botanicals with just
okay.
too cold and too short a season. And we don't have the area in our own site. So
Mm.
what we will do, or what we do is we grow ingredients that have strong flavors. So things like tangerine sage, pineapple sage, lemon verbena, these are all, and things like lemon thyme. These are all botanicals that can grow in this climate, that don't take up a lot of space but have really strong flavor profiles. And we've got things like, we've created a bog where we grow apple mint, water mint, strawberry mint, chocolate.
Oh, okay. Mm.
So these flavors that are really strong, that you don't need a lot of, we can use in our seasonal editions. So we do a seasonal edition of Rock Rose Gin, and we only do 4 batches of that per year, and that will be based on the harvest of the ingredients that we get locally, and then complemented with the juniper that we buy in from Italy and Bulgaria.
Mm. But I love a lemon verbena. It's such a wonderful. I mean, it's lemony, but it's soft, like a very soft lemon. But now, what is your lemon verbena gin? What do you?
So we use that in our summer edition, and we also use it in our citrus edition, citrus coastal edition. So you're right, it's a really light lemon. So when you compare it to lemon oil or lemon peel can have a little bit of bitterness in it as well. But lemon peel, the oil is more, I would say, not as light. Well, then you go to lemon verbena, and it's really light and just a different profile altogether. And that works really well in gin. It makes it really refreshing. So I always think of lemon verbena as being almost like a lemon sherbet.
Yeah, it's almost like a sweet. It has a sweet fragrance also as well.
Yeah, and it's lovely. We grow that in our geodome here, and it grows really well. We get a lot of lemon verbena.
Oh, okay. But now you also talked about sustainability and about looking at after the environment and how you make the gin. Is this also important for you? And is this something that you talk about when you sell your gin? That is it something that the market wants to know about? No.
Definitely, there's a growing interest in sustainability and also the practices on how a distillery operates. When we designed the business, or designed the distillery in 2013, my background as a chemical engineer, we'd already done work in sustainability at university, and I knew that it was key then to look at our impact on our raw materials that we source locally, on our energy use, and then on our waste and how we handle that. So from day one, our waste has been collected and then used as a soil conditioner to improve soil on fields near local crofts. We built a solar panel system in, I think it was year 2. So we built a big solar panel system, and our still is heated with electricity. So we were on track to generate more solar from our system than we use, but as our sales have gone up, we've not been able to keep up. So we're going to add more solar panels and also add a battery system in the future, hopefully this year, but it's hard getting things at the moment. Hopefully add that, and then that will allow us to generate more electricity from solar than we use in all of our production here. And then again, with the raw materials, we went out and worked with a specialist in biodiversity. So Mary came out and showed us around different botanicals and told us how much we could take, how much we should leave for the birds, and where where the sites we could get them from. And then working closely with them, we also then sponsor biodiversity projects for the biodiversity group here, where we have invested money, invested time, and provided support so that we could deliver projects with them. And that's really important. And then adding on to that, we listen to our customers. Our customers love our bottles. They're beautifully designed, and they wanted us to offer a refill service. So we looked at doing a refill pouch, and we were the first company in the UK to do a fully recyclable free post-return pouch for our gin.
Really?
That was incredible. You know, for a distillery of our size and in the location that we are, to be the first in the UK to do that is a real achievement for us. And we've won a lot of awards on the back of that. And our customers love it as well. So they asked for that service, we delivered it, and they now subscribe to the refill service so that the pouch goes to them, they refill the bottle, and the pouch comes back to us. So it reduces a really energy intensive recycling process for the bottles.
Wow, this is amazing, because I think this is something that more companies should be doing, you know?
Yeah, and I think
it's so easy. Yeah.
It's definitely a cultural thing. We know that in other cultures there's a bigger acceptance of refills and a bigger momentum. And I think it's just depending on where you are. I think what we found is recycling, reuse, and refills are different in every country. There's no consistent approach. So we're seeing it taken off in other countries. So when we did the refill pouches, they were very much designed for the UK. But because other countries love the idea, we've now shipped them to Singapore, to Australia, to Thailand, to Germany. So there is that demand coming for these things.
I think this is a wonderful idea, really. You know, I think with many more products, this should happen.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, it was a bit of a leap of faith.
I've thought of that yet, but yeah, this is great.
Yeah, and it's been really well backed, and we're really grateful that our fans, our followers, told us about this, but also then embraced it and told other people. So it's been really good.
And you know, it sometimes takes one person to do that, to make that change, and then other companies will see it and maybe do the same. So it's these little things. I think these little changes. I spoke to Henry Barnard from Gin and Tonic, and he also talked about their distillery doing little things to do, making a difference. But it's just doing these things. That is the thing, you know. That's just starting somewhere and doing it.
Yeah, that's right. I think it can work two ways. You can either be the inspiration for other businesses, or you can be the guilty conscience for other businesses if they don't do it. So when the living wage launched in Scotland, I think we were the first distillery to sign up that every employee would be paid the living wage. And when you tell people about that, it means that they start to ask questions why other people don't do it. So quickly other distilleries sign up and joined it because they want to demonstrate the same values as what we have. And it's another great thing for us to say that, you know, every employee is paid the living wage, and to be the first distillery in Scotland to do that, or first or second, it's still a brilliant thing.
No, really, it's very admirable. But now, Martin, tell me what's now next for you.
So,
what are your new expansion to the business?
Yeah, you can see over my shoulder here that there's plans on the wall. So I've driven past a 200-year-old mill now for about 25 years and loved it, and always thought it was such a shame that this building was falling in, going to basically end up as a ruin. And I always dreamed that, you know, I could do something, a hotel, do something, but that was always pie in the sky. And then as this business became more successful and I could start to see a future, I started to believe that we could do something with the mill. So we bought it in November 2020, and we now have built a warehouse on the site, and we've permission to build a whiskey distillery on the site. And we are now starting to work to clean out the mill and then hopefully start to build it next year. It's terrifying, it's exciting, it's a challenge, and it ties back to this business really well, where the things we've learned and the practices that we've or things that we've implemented, we will do there as well. So again, this will be an electric distillery powered by renewable energy. It'll be a whiskey distillery, and we'll start to try and work with local farmers to use local barley that will come from the surrounding area. And we'll try and grow barley that was grown here 50 years ago, 60 years ago. So try and get some of these older styles of barley that will allow us to create a product that is another Caithness inspired product.
Amazing. But whiskey is a very Scottish thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. You do get different styles, but I guess if you were to think of the three things that Scotland is associated with, whiskey would be number one.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And now this, so this will be a separate. You will run this separately from your distillery, or will it?
There'll be a bit of an overlap because obviously we do some of the same activities here. So bottling, for example, marketing, sales, that sort of thing. It'll be the same team that will do both, but we'll have two sites. And the great thing is, the mill has such a history. We have 200 years of history to tell people about. And the great thing is, we've always said that we were a local company and trying to improve the local area, and this investment completely demonstrates that. And we've had so much support from local people who, like myself, seen the mill going into a state of disrepair and dreamed of it being restored. In fact, we're working, or we speak really closely with a lady who was born in the mill. So
really?
she's telling us all her stories and sharing her family photos. Unbelievable. It's so great. And she told me about a month ago that every time she went past the mill, she looked the other way because she couldn't bear to look at it as it got worse and worse. But now that she's seen her plans, she looks at the mill and she smiles. And I thought that was just like the nicest thing I've heard for life.
Isn't that amazing? Oh, I love this. I love this idea. I love the story. And I think it's great that you didn't go out and, just build a new building somewhere, but that you looked at that and so you're renovating also. Are you trying to get it as back to its natural state as possible?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the idea.
So we worked closely with Historic Environment Scotland and the conservation planner at the local authority, and we're trying to reinstate as many features as we can. So they have things like sack hoists. We're going to reinstate sack hoists so that people can see how they would have worked. But then we're conscious that we're the guardians of the building for the future. So we have to put things in place that didn't exist back then. So things like rain pipes weren't used. So there was no rain pipes. But if we don't put the rain pipes on, it means that the building will get damp, and it will mean it could deteriorate over time. So we have to make that decision that we want to put these rain pipes and guttering in place so that we can protect the fabric of the building. So we want to restore the building, but then we're conscious we have to protect and look after the building. So it's a balancing act, it really is.
Yeah, but I think isn't it amazing? And this product will be just so, the story about it would be so amazing.
Yeah. We've not announced the name of the product yet, but the product will be inspired by the local mill. And the interesting story about the mill is the mill was only built to support the Caithness flagstone industry. So there was a quarry around maybe 500 metres away from the mill, and they used to quarry stone, big, hard, flat stone, and it used to be shipped from the pier all around the world as a product called Caithness flagstone to support all the workers that built lived there, they built a mill to create food products, and that mill was built out of the same stone. So if we have this lovely story
Really?
of being able to link that mill
Yeah.
to the stone industry, to the harbour, and to tell that real fascinating story of the flagstone industry.
Well, if the flagstones could be exported at that time to all around the world, then that your whiskey will also be
Yeah,
following the flagstones.
that's right, and it's going to be great because there's flagstone in Singapore, in New York, where hopefully our bottles will land one day, and we can get a photo of those bottles on those flagstones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Oh, I just love this story. This is going to be an amazing product, and the story behind it. But now and whiskey, is that you following the same procedure really as you do with other distilled products?
Yeah, we'll follow a fairly traditional whiskey process. There won't be the same automation as new processes, but we want to retain that handcrafted ethos where our distillers are measuring by their own senses, and we will have flexibility. So big whiskey distilleries tend to run the same production run every day of every week of every year. We will have flexibility, so we'll maybe do a different style of barley once a year. We'll use smaller barrels. We'll use different styles of barrels. We'll try and do things that we can do that big guys can't do. And I think you've spoken to other distilleries and how they're able to do initiatives, and I think that's a great thing about smaller distilleries. They're able to come up with an idea and they're able to act upon it and implement it very, very quickly. And big guys can't do that. They take years to make decisions and to make implementations, and that's one of our advantages.
Yeah, I love this. Like you say, the distilleries I spoke to as well, each has their own style and their own story and their own specific thing that they do. And I think this is so wonderful. I think this is what people need, to experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think there's definitely more of a movement as well to supporting local businesses where there's a face attached to businesses,
exactly.
and they know that it supports jobs. So it's really good, and I've never become a bigger shopper of local products than I am today. Where because we run a local business, we want to support other local businesses. So we'll partner with them to make products for our shop. But when I'm not working and it's not a work thing, I'll still look to buy local products because I know the impact it has on those local livelihoods.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And, it's time that we do that because it's these small independent businesses who, where you get the real service and where you get the attention, the real products. And I think this is very important to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the diversity that you get with local producers in all
Exactly.
aspects is, if you walk in cities and go to the same shops, they're laid out the same way, they sell the same things, and you get the same quality.
Yeah.
But by working with someone local in each of those areas, you find something that they only do, or they use local materials that you can't get elsewhere. So there's that real discovery and real link to the local area that doesn't exist with these other shops.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say my wish is that one day I want to come to your distillery. I want to come and see, and I want to come to the mill.
Yeah,
It's
you have
a fascinating story. Yeah.
The mill is located at the other end of the beach from this distillery. So when you get the mill, it has a view right out over the beach, and it is incredible. I love it. And my house is at the other end of the beach. So one day when the mill's built, I'll be able to walk to my work along the beach, which I don't think you can beat. Well, in the summer anyway, maybe not in the
winter. Well, you're probably so used to that weather, you will do it. You're brave enough to do it.
Yeah, there's a saying up here that if the wind stopped, we'd all fall over because we're so used to it.
Well, I've never been to Scotland. So this is now my wish to come to Scotland. I'm coming to your mill. When will it be done?
Hopefully May 2024.
Okay, so I have time.
Yeah, you
I
could
have
add a few months on just in case.
Okay. Martin, but it was now so lovely to talk to you. But I want to ask you now to do a shout out for one of the restaurants or coffee shops in that area of yours, one of the independent ones.
So we're fortunate. We've got lots of lovely restaurants in the area, but I think one that's quite unique is Number One Bistro at Mackay's Hotel. So if you go to Mackay's Hotel and eat in the restaurant, you have the luck of visiting Scotland or the world's smallest street. So
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
it's on the world's smallest street. So you get to visit there, and the food is absolutely fantastic. Really traditional Scottish food.
Okay. Do they have a website?
Yeah, if you look at Mackay's Hotel, that would take you into the hotel and restaurant.
I will put the link of their website. I'll put that also in the description here.
Yeah,
and yeah,
we know the owners are lovely. Ellie and Murray been great support for our business. Where
really
we were new to business, and they were able to support us on our journey. So, yeah, lovely family-run hotel and great food. Really, really fantastic food.
Well, you can tell them that you did the shout out, and I will put the link in the description.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll let them know. They'll be delighted.
Okay. But Martin, thank you so much for your time. It was just so lovely to talk to you now.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. It was great to tell our story and also to speak with you. Thanks very much.
Yeah, and all the best with the mill.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and look forward to showing you around someday.
And I'll see you. I'll see you definitely. Yeah. Okay, Martin.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day. Bye.